Today's guest is Tad Carpenter. Tad is a designer and illustrator from Kansas City, Missouri. His work is colorful, intelligent, and fun. It attracts children and adults alike. Tad is going to talk to us about his creative process and approach to working with clients. He has a passion for teaching and branding and will share the things that inspire him. Now let's get to know more about Tad Carpenter. I'm going to ask you, pencil or pixel?
Yeah, that's and you know, we just had a conversation regarding this a little bit, and it's one of those things that that's a hard choice to make, you know. And to me, it's the it's the peanut butter and jelly choice. You know, which one am I going with? They kind of have to live together, but. And as I was just kind of saying, you know, everything I make starts with pencil, first and foremost. It's me sketching, concepting, sharing sketches with clients, sharing sketches with other people that are working with me or whatnot. But when it comes down to it, I feel like it has to live somewhere. And a lot of times those content lives online or I render it on the computer with pixels. So, gosh, it's kind of a shame. I don't know why it's a shame. Why should I be ashamed? I think I would go pixel actually over.
I do. Man, so I was wrong.
I
was wrong. I thought you were gonna say pencil.
Yeah, I think I would go pixel. Yeah. I'm sorry. Oh man, so ashamed of myself. Hang my head.
Now I usually ask what your story is. If you could give us a little background. On your days a background before you were a designer. How did you get into this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a unique situation. That to go back before a designer would be a real long time ago. I was actually very fortunate, and I've talked about this in different lectures I've gone on, or people that maybe have read other interviews. That I'm really lucky to grow up. My father's an illustrator, and so I literally grew up watching illustration, seeing what it was firsthand, and being super intrigued by it, and thought it was really, really something I wanted to be a part of. For me, it kind of, I don't know if too many people can do this. Maybe they all can actually. Like I can pinpoint the day, the hour, the moment when I was like, you know what, I think I want to be an illustrator or a designer. Like this is it, you know?
How old were you?
I was in third grade, so I don't know, what is that, 9, 10 years old, somewhere in that category.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I won a contest to draw the season tickets for the Kansas City Chiefs, and so which was amazing. Like I got season tickets. They honored me at the 50-yard line at the football field. I got to go in the locker room. I mean, the Chiefs were horrible back then. Not too different than now, actually. But you know, it was just so it was like me and 9 people at the stadium. You know what I mean? But like, but it was amazing. And then they sent a football player to my school in a red Ferrari. I'll never forget that. And he gave me a ride in the Ferrari, and then they did a whole assembly for me. And I was like, dude, this is awesome. All because I just drew this season ticket for the Chiefs. And then after the assembly, a 5th grade girl asked me out on a date. And I was like,
it doesn't get any better than that.
Telling me, no, I will draw you things, and then you will give me things, and older women will ask me out. I was like, dude, I am so in on whatever this is, you know, in whatever world this is. So to me, and a lot of that had to do with my father. Like my dad is an amazing, he's the most talented illustrator, most talented draftsman I've ever seen. He's one of those people that can sit down and look at anything and just draw and just anything, you know. He's a crazy, crazy talented. And being around that environment really helped kind of focus me. So that was the thing that kind of started for me as far as design and illustration. And I eventually went on to college. I went to the University of Kansas, where I teach now, and I got a degree in both graphic design and illustration. My first job out of college, I worked at a small branding firm. I did that for a few years until then I broke off and created my own firm. So that's kind of like the short but long. I don't have too many short answers. I get long-winded sometimes. But that's kind of a basic rundown of how I kind of got into what I did.
All right, so you were working at a branding firm, right? You were working at a branding firm, and after that, what happened? Did you decide to go independent?
I decided to. I always knew that I kind of wanted to do my own thing, I think. And I think, and it by no means is it for everyone. By any means,
Yeah.
it's it's one of those things that there's a lot of value to working for someone and the headaches that you don't have to deal with. You know, I would love to. I need to start keeping better track at what my days actually entail. I would guess only maybe 25 to 30% of them are actually me making anything. It seems like.
Wow.
The other percent is writing proposals. You know, estimates, meetings. You know, emails, more emails, more emails. You know, it's like so much of that part of the world takes up your time, it seems like sometimes. And I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but it does. Like, there's so much that you don't realize when you work for someone, and you hopefully are able to just focus on what it is maybe that you like to do, and that is design. With that being said, I personally would never change it. I like that control. I think all of us as designers might have a little bit of control issues, you know, and I might be one of those a little bit. I like to be able to like kind of wrangle it all together. But yeah, I had an idea. I wanted to work for myself and kind of create something else. And there was, you know, a time where about 5-6 years ago, I started getting a couple clients on my own that I was really excited about. I was doing a bunch of branding work for different restaurants, and that started to give me a good sign that I'm like, you know, maybe I can do this. You know, maybe this is something that I can do. Was it scary as all get out? Absolutely, man. It scared the hell out of me. That day that ripcord is cut, and you're like, whoa, I'm floating here by myself. How's this going to happen? And
Yep.
I remember, on a side note, tangents hopefully are encouraged here.
Oh, absolutely.
But like, I remember it's a weird thing. Like I'm not like super like I believe in signs and all that, you know, whatever. But like the first day I started working for myself, and you know, I had a couple little things, nothing like substantial, that I was like, okay, this is going to pay for rent next month, and this will be, you know, whatever. Right. The first day I remember going out on my own. I don't know how it happened. Things must have been aligned. I don't know. I got a call from Chronicle Books. Whew. And they had a activity. Out of the blue. They and I shouldn't say entirely out of the blue. We had been in contact previously, but nothing had ever happened. I hadn't talked to them in, a year or something. I don't know how long. You know, nothing. But that very first day on my own, Chronicle called and had like this activity book that they wanted me to illustrate. And I just remember being like, oh my gosh, I need this at this time. Like, not just from a financial standpoint, or I got to pay rent, but from a mental health standpoint, you know, going out on your own, being like, what am I going to do? Can I do this? You know, how do I explain this to my mother? You know, you know what I mean? Like,
well, you were probably thinking, am I going to pick up any jobs in the next month or so, right?
And how do you do that? I mean, it's like, I think that's one of those things that, in design school, they don't tell us that really. Like, you know, how do you go out and pick up jobs as designers? No, that's not like something they do. And like, to me, actually, I think sometimes like we all look down on that a little bit, like the hustle of it a little. Like, it's like, oh gosh, you're like, you know, and I don't think we should. Like, to me, the hustle of what we all do, the how much hard we have to work, and you know, like I just bitched and complained about like writing emails and writing proposals and doing all that. To be honest, I enjoy like the business aspect of all of our careers almost as much as I do the actual act of making. There's something really fun and exciting about a new project coming in. It's
now, would you say? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But would you say that it's because these are projects that you do have some sort of slightly some control over, that makes it sort of gives it that fun element, it sort of gives it like that excitement? Sometimes. Like, man, this is really cool, I'm bringing in some money, I'm doing this, they're asking me to make this thing, this you know,
whatever. Yeah. And to me, it's probably a little bit of a few things. Like, to me, every time that email comes into your inbox that, hey, I'd like to work on a project with you, it always feels so good. Like, it always is such an amazing feeling. Not because it's just the fact that, wow, someone actually out there saw my work and wanted to do a project together and maybe liked it, you know? And that is amazing. It's like, hopefully we all do this because we love the act of making. I know that's what I do. Like, every day waking up and saying, you know what, today I'm going to make something that did not exist yesterday. That's an amazing idea. You know, the fact that we are creating things that no one has seen or never existed on this planet yesterday. you know? And the fact that you get this email from someone saying, hey, you know what? I want to make something with you today, or the next 8 months, or however long some stupid project might take, right? But, you know, it's like, let's make something together, you know? That's an amazing feeling, and it should be such an honor, because it's like, I think also as someone who is self-employed and runs their own studio, it's like also one of those things that I'm a little bit of a pessimist sometimes, and I'm like, this is the year, not going to get any more work. This is it. This is all over. So it's like I'm humbled by when new projects come in, and that is, I think, where a lot of the excitement comes from, is talking to these people and getting involved in kind of the back and forth of client work. And we talked about this, you know. I like client work, and I like that collaboration that you have with other designers and other creative people, you know.
Let's talk a little bit about the scope of things. You just mentioned that sometimes a project may take about 8 months. So what time frames do you usually work with?
Totally.
Or does it really vary?
And it varies. It varies huge, and a lot of that has to do just with the fact that another thing I love about design is the variety. You know,
yeah.
It could be an editorial piece that's only a couple days. It's going to take you a couple days, and that's it. Or it could be a massive branding project it's an entire restaurant or entire build out that, yeah, like from that first phone call to when the doors are kicked open, that might be 8 months, 12 months, something like that, you know? And yeah, I have a few of those, you know, and we're working on a restaurant concept right now that, I mean, I think we first had the first phone call about it, I want to say, oh gosh, March maybe February. Actually, no, I take that back. It was November last year. I remember meeting with the client in person and him just mentioning it to me, saying, hey, this is something I really want to work on together next year. I'm like, awesome, I can't wait, let's do this. February, March, we started kind of kicking around some kind of finalizing some things, and then you know, just pitched concepts about 4 weeks ago. And the concept's not even set to open till either December at the earliest. My guess will probably be January, probably knowing these projects. And that's just because it's an entire build out. Like the structure we're going to be moving into is being renovated. Obviously, we have to figure out all the actual brand itself, but then also the implementation of everything. You know, all the interiors, all the printed material, all the signage, all the, you know, everything. So not all of them are that way. I've done other restaurants where it's like 3 months, 2 months, you know, moving quick. But this one in particular is going to be a major undertaking.
I love how versatile you are. I mean, you still have your signature style that I could tell. But you know, you have, you know, this work, like for example, like you said, restaurants, and then you have a lot of illustrations, children's books, editorial design. It's so spread out. What do you suggest that people build a portfolio as vast and sort of widespread as that? I mean, you probably don't think it's that widespread, but you know, a lot of people stick to editorial, for instance, or illustration, and that's it. Lettering, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, and I think there's a lot of that has to come down to the personality of the designer and what it is they want to do. And that's what I always tell people, is that when you're starting to find your voice, make what you like, you know, make the types of things that you enjoy, and the other pieces will fall in place, you know. Other people are going to like that as well, you know? And it's when you're making something that you enjoy, you're going to make your best work, you know? It's easy. And for me, one way or another, I like a lot of stuff, you know? And like I was mentioning previously, like there's something about our practice, and just from a design standpoint, that we can do so many things, and design touches so many people in so many different ways, that I personally would have a hard time saying, you know what, I am only a children's book writer and illustrator. That is all I do. That is my box. That is where I live. But I love branding. Branding is one of my favorite things in the world, and brand identities and logos for that matter, and things like that. And it's like that is something I want to do as well, you know. And editorial work, I love creating editorial work. Gig posters, you know, I used to do a lot of gig posters, and now I don't do quite as many, but I still like to do one every once in a while, because there's something innately fun about making this. You can really experiment and do a lot of things. So it's like, for me personally, I wanted to do a lot of different work. I hope through whatever that is, that somehow the voice is authentic, and the voice seems like it's coming from somebody, but like, so it's not too sporadic, I guess. But for designers coming up, I mean, I think it's always make what it is you like, and make work in the world which you want to live in, you know? So it's if you want to live in the hand lettering world, well, yeah, maybe your work should focus on hand lettering. Now, it doesn't all need to be editorial hand lettering or whatever, but how and where else can hand lettering live, you know? Or if you're into, you know, whatever it is, think about where and how it can cross barriers as far as applications. And I think that's important, you know? I always think of it as like, and this is the lamest analogy your show will ever have, but you know, you always see those like lame like commercials about like stock investing, and it's like diversify, diversify, diversify. I don't really know what any of this means. I don't know about things like that. But when you think about that, it's like, I think there's probably value in that for what we do too. Diversify, diversify, diversify. There could be years where those branding projects, they're just not coming in, you know? Shocker, you know, when the economy's down, people ain't opening restaurants every other month, you know what I mean? So when that's not kicking, you know, what other work can you be working on? Is that picture books? Is that corporate identities? Is that, you know, editorial work or development or, you know, whatever else? Being able to wear a lot of different hats, I think, is extremely important.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you started early on, did you do a lot of personal projects at the very beginning? A lot of what you wanted to do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I still try to mix things in. It's actually I actually have a print on press today that I am swamped with some projects right now, but like I couldn't get it out of my head, and I needed to just make this thing, you know? And it's no client called and asked me to do it. Nobody said, oh, you should really, I wanted to make this thing that was in my head, and I made it. And actually my wife, Jessica Carpenter, is a crazy talented art director and designer. So I created this idea for this print, and the two of us then kind of finished it together. And which I love being able to work with her on stuff, because she's in another stratosphere when it comes to attention to detail and just amazing things. But so I try to mix in some passion projects as often as I can, even if it's as simple as just like a print, you know? I'd like to start doing a few more. And so I've kicked around some things in my head where I'm like, ooh, I love seeing all these designers that have these like Tumblr pages or whatever, where it's like a directive where like, I'm only going to draw X and I'm only going to do this. I think that's awesome, you know? I'd love to try to do that. When I started out, I did like, one of my first passion projects was this thing called Monster Mix-Ups, and it was 10 different monster prints, but they were tops and bottoms, and so then you could mix all the monsters up. And again, it was all these screen prints I was making, and like no one asked me to do it, but it was one of those things that was like, I just think it'd be really fun, you know? And yeah, and that led to more work, you know? Your passion projects, because you're passionate about them, other people are going to see that passion, and it's going to lead to work, you know? So I don't feel like there's ever a good time to just like sit still in our industry. It's like, if there's a downtime from a client standpoint, that's wonderful in my eyes, because that means you can start making work that you want to make that's going to lead to client work that you're going to be excited to make, you know? And I think that's what's great about what we do. There's always opportunity to do what we love, which is make stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good segue to this question. I was going to ask you, what is it that inspires you today? Or who inspires you today?
Man, I'm really inspired, like, as far as design is concerned, and this is probably isn't that different than a lot of your people that view your show or other people you've interviewed. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it goes back to my dad being an illustrator. My dad is a product of the 1950s. And the baby boomer kind of up phase. So all the illustration and the people that he really admires are from that era. And so when I was growing up and he was starting to show and share with me what design was, and typically the way he would show me what design was or illustration was through picture books. It was all of those illustrators from the 1950s and 40s and 30s and 1960s, you know? And so those are the type of people, the Provincens, the Dick Brunas, just count the Sossicks of the world. Those kind of people really inspire me to this day. They feel so timeless to me, what they made and the things they did. So that's something that really got me started. My wife Jessica inspires me a lot. She's so talented and so good that I want to make good work that she thinks is good. You know,
yeah.
I think it's like a normal thing. It's like we've been together 10 years, married 5, and I still want to like impress her a little bit, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Or try to, even though it doesn't. Most
You
of
need
the
to
time.
get that approval, right? At
Yeah,
first.
you want that approval. Yeah, totally. Which I think is like a good thing that we've been together so long, and I still want that, like, oh, that looks great, babe, you know? And it's like, yeah, awesome, you know? That's the critic I care about, you know? And if I pass her test, that makes me feel that makes me feel really good about what I'm working on a lot of times. But yeah, I mean, from a inspiration standpoint, I really love, like, not within the world of graphic design at all. I really love architecture a lot. I'm really into, I love furniture design. I would love to one day maybe get into something like that. I think that'd be really exciting
Oh,
too.
that's
So
so
it's like
awesome. Yeah.
other kinds of design is really exciting to me. And those are two in particular facets that have always fascinated me.
Where can people find those any work on those illustrators that you've just mentioned?
Well,
If you have any resources.
I'm not a 17-year-old girl that pins hairstyles on Pinterest, but I do have a Pinterest account. And but like that sounds quirky, but like I have a board on Pinterest that's called Retropop, and literally all it is mid-century illustration. All it is
Sweet.
children's books and just illustration from the kind of the mid-century movement. And by no means am I the only person doing this. Obviously, there's millions of places to get this great inspiration. You know, Dave Kutzner at Grain Edit's been doing it for a long time. I feel like he's always has a good little place where you can find a great inspiration. But I just have a little board that's a great way to scroll through fast and see who it is that you might be inspired by. There's so many of them that made so many great works, and some of them aren't as well known as like Mary Blair, or like somebody like that. There's some out there that I'm not even familiar with, and I'll come across their work and I'm like, this person's amazing. Like they're doing amazing work,
Yeah.
and it's great that there's a place for some of that work to live now, and for it to inspire kind of all these next generation of designers and makers.
Do you have a bunch of architecture and mid-century furniture design on your pins too? You have those kind of pins?
I might, yeah.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that then. I'm gonna check
Yeah,
it out.
no, it's been a wild ride. My wife and I, over the past, gosh, it's been about 2 years, have been building a home,
Yeah.
and it's actually going to be a home and a workspace. So like we've been submerged in like architecture and like furniture and like stuff like that for the past few years, and which I've always really enjoyed it, but I feel like this has made us like it even more. And as a visual person, like of course you should be into that stuff. You
Yeah.
actually care about how things work and live and function, So yeah.
You guys are customizing it from like the ground up?
Yeah,
That is so awesome.
yeah. We're the worst clients ever. One of our good friends is our architect, and
Wow.
we showed up the first day to talk about the project. And my wife and I drew floor plans and had image boards created, like we were going to like a design pitch or something. You know what I mean? And we walked in like that. And can you imagine that if one of your clients walked in and was like, "Here's some sketches I made for what I want my identity to look like, and here's some inspiration for you." And I'd be like, what is that?" But they were super awesome. And obviously, we are not architects. I know nothing about load-bearing walls and things like that. My ideas would just collapse around me. But yeah, it's been a crazy fun process.
Man, that is so awesome. So awesome. And that's definitely a dream for a lot of
Huge
creative
dream.
folks to.
Huge dream.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
fortunate. We got very lucky in finding a good place and a good area, and then obviously having a friend and his firm really helping us out was awesome.
Totally. So I'm gonna switch gears a little bit here, and I'm gonna ask you if you could tell us about a time when something, let's say a project didn't go the way you thought it would go. It just kind of went downhill. Can you tell us what happened and how that issue was how that was solved afterwards?
Yeah, and I think that's a good topic to talk about because it's not all. And I think in the era we live in, from a design standpoint, everything looks shiny and perfect. You go to people's websites and all over blogs, and it's like everybody is so talented and makes so many wonderful things. And I can tell you, I crap out a lot of horrible stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's just natural. You know what I mean? When you make as much as all of us make, not everything is going to be perfect, and not everything is going to be your best work. But no, I definitely have some projects that I can think of that didn't go how I expected them to go, maybe right off the bat. And I can think of one branding project in particular that I remember going into our first meeting where I was going to share brand concepts. And man, I had some concepts I was really, really excited about, really different. And I just thought would be a good position for their company. And I would go through my whole song and dance and get them excited and sharing all these ideas. And they got done with it. And they're like, I think we just want like real cleanly and like the most simple font you can find, just our name typed out, and that's it. And we don't need any of this other stuff, like let's just keep it just that. And I just remember feeling so defeated and just like a kick in the gut, they're just like, what just happened? Like, why did this just, what the, and leaving and just being, just totally like walking down the street, kicking the can kind of a thing, But I think it's important to fight for what you believe in, not in an assholeian way by any means.
I love that, assholeian.
Is that a word? I don't know.
Awesome. It is now.
By no means in that manner, but very much like you're being hired for a reason, and your opinions and your thoughts, you need to share those. And I remember driving away from that meeting being like, you know what? I think they're making the wrong choice here. I think we could do better. And turning around and going back to meet with the client and totally going back into my dog and pony show. Like, it was hard. I was like, what is he going to do? Is he going to throw me out? Is he going to be pissed? Am I going to just lose this whole project? Or like, and it was a chef that I was meeting with. It was for a restaurant, and him and a couple of his business folks. And the chef looked at me and said, you know what? I trust you. Let's go with your recommendation. And I remember first being like, where the hell were you like 25 minutes ago when you were like not on the board? But ultimately, I think he saw how passionate I was about something and like was like into it, and like was like really saw the value of how it would help his company and really position him in the place that he wanted to be positioned based on some strategy and stuff we kind of came up with. That he went with it, and either that I just beat him down enough, I don't know. But it was one of those things that I remember that and being like, you know what, that was important for him to see that how much I care about what it is we were working on together. It's not just a job I check in at and leave at 5 and like I'm done, I remember a teacher told me once as a designer and illustrator, like, this isn't a career, this is a lifestyle, like get ready for this. It's not something that you're going to leave at 5 o'clock. Cool, man, beer time, let's roll. Those projects, even when you're out having beer time, they're still in your head. You're still thinking about them. And that's just,
you start working on them when you go back home.
Oh, absolutely, man. When you're laying in bed at night, that's what we're all thinking about. When you're in the shower, that's what we're all thinking about, And that's more than a job, That really is. It's more than that. So I think he saw that, and I always remember that situation because it was something that I don't know. It was cool to see a client trust you. With that being said, there's been other situations where that doesn't work, you know what I mean? And you have to know, like, dude, like, that's enough. You don't need to push anymore, you don't be that guy, or I remember doing a project for packaging for a soda company and thinking everything was moving forward. Like, we got this awesome new project. And at the very last minute, it was a huge soda company that remains nameless. And, they pulled it out last second. Like, they're like, we think this design's too progressive. We're going to go with this. And I was just like, oh, tears, cry. Okay. And it happens. Like I said, hopefully all of us get to work on tons of projects throughout a career. You can't let just this one instance like weigh you down or make you bummed out about it. Yeah. You just live to design another day. You pick up your pixels and you move on, and that's how you got to try to do it, because it's hard because we get attached to the things we make. We love them, we want them to go out in the world, and when they don't, it's hard. But yeah, you just gotta let it roll off you a little bit.
Phrase, pick up your pixels.
There you go. Yeah. Pick up your pixels in not an assholeian way.
Yeah. I'm not gonna be assholeian about that.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. Hey, you have a whole catalog of like some really awesome books, but is there a book that inspires you that you would recommend to other designers to for other designers to read, even look at?
Yeah, I mean, one in particular that's great that all designers need is right behind you to your left, I see, and that's the Graphic Arts Handbook
Oh
of
yeah,
Ethical Guidelines. I think not enough. There you go. I don't
this
think
puppy. It's an old copy, but
I have the same one. That's the
yeah.
same one I have too. And I don't think well, I know no one told me about it until I was out on my own career, and it's so hard to come up with copywriting and
Yeah.
licensing and just coming up with estimates and things like that. You want to protect yourself, and to me, that book is a book that everyone needs to own. You know, even if you work for someone, chances are your neighbor's going to call you and want some little, whatever. Well, how do you figure that out in that situation, or whatever? I don't know. I think that's a great book to read. I think the book I always really liked is that Kern and Burn. It was a blog for a long time, Kern and Burn, and then they came out with the book. Super nice people that put that together. I think that's a really nice, inspirational kind of book that just talks about stories and within our kind of practice. I think that's really nice. I think those are both books that I think would be really, really nice for people to kind of pick up.
And I'll definitely have those in the show notes, pencilversuspixels.com/Tad Carpenter. So if you want to get the links to these books and everything we talked about today, they will be right there. So
I
Tad,
wish I thought of more books off the top of my hand. It's hard to pull them out of the old kind of file in my brain,
No, actually, these are really good these are essential books. So I think they'll do the trick for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So Tad, before we wrap it up, I want to ask you if there's one piece of advice or one thing that you would like to tell a designer, visual artist, before they, I don't know, let's talk about jumping into a creative career or anything that would serve them well, what would that be?
When I think about what we do, I feel like so much of what we do is built on passion and built on the love of design. And I think design right now is a very sexy career from the outside looking in. Not when you're in it by any means, but like from the outside looking in, it's very exciting, I feel like, and I think a lot of people want to be a part of it. I see that with students sometimes, like people coming into it that, it just might not be the right fit. If you were not absolutely in love with what it is we're doing, and that hopefully that is in the act of making things, I would try something else. Don't feel like it's something you have to do. If you don't love it, leave it. I think that's something I always try to kind of live by. We are not on this spinning rock long enough. And I don't want to spend it doing things that I'm not like really excited about. Yeah, you have to do quarterly taxes and like stupid stuff like that, of course, right? But like in the grand scheme of things, like I want to be part of something that I'm super stoked to be a part of. There's so many talented people in our industry, and so many people that are so cool and passionate, and just it's become such a small community of friends that you create and know, and that's a great thing to be a part of. And if it's not something that you're crazy about and you don't love it, just leave it, man. Move on. Do something else. I think that's important to know and be okay with.
That's to the point. I love it.
Cool.
If anyone would like to reach out to you, where can we find you?
Oh man, you can find me on my site, which is tadcarpenter.com. Twitter handle's also tadcarpenter. So yeah, of course, feel free to say hello.
Tad, thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
I'm honored that you thought of me, and appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, and everyone, please check out Tad's work. If you haven't seen Tad Carpenter by now, I don't know where you've been. But check out his work. Beautiful stuff. Love it. You can find links to it on pencilversuspixel.com/Tad Carpenter, or like he said, go to tadcarpenter.com. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next week.